All right, here we go. All right, thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Ryan Gaylor. I'm the distance learning librarian for University of St. Augustine, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the organizational tools and storage tools that are available to you through the USA Library. A lot of these tools you've probably come in contact with before, but never really, or you may not have venture too far with them. So tonight we're going to take a look at some of those tools to help you get organized for maybe starting a larger research project or even a very extensive literature search. So just a couple quick announcements of great webinars that are coming up that I always like to promote. One of them is coming up, which is really great. It's done by Matthew Chase. It's called The Mindful Professor. That's actually going to be on Thursday, I believe. Citation Managers, Zotero starts next week. Technically today, this particular session is sort of the beginning of our Citation Managers month, which we've kind of labeled that for June. So kind of starting with the organizational tools and storage tools, we're going to talk more about citation managers throughout the month. So if you're interested in learning a little bit about some of the citation managers that we support, the library supports, then stop by and check it out. They're listed under the upcoming events. I'm also going to briefly mention them tonight because while you really, that's why there's different sessions, but you could spend an entire session talking about the individual citation managers, but they're excellent tools to use. A lot of people just sort of think of them as citation generators, but there's really a lot more to it than that. It's just one of their perks is that they help you generate citations. But so look for that all month. Zotero, which is kind of the, I guess, maybe the staff favorite, is the one that we're going to discuss next week. But yeah, come visit throughout the month. We'll be talking about some of the other ones too. Retaining author rights and research publications, that's a presentation that I believe Eric Robertson, our scholarly communications librarian, will be doing. That kicks off on June 10th. For this particular presentation, I think areas that might be good as far as supplementing some of the things that I show you and some of the things that we talk about would be our Citation Managers Guide, which is under Guides, and you can look it up alphabetically in the citation. And one of our librarians made a really great library guide called the Occupational Therapy Capstone Resources Guide. And there's a section in there that's about documenting searches, which is kind of part of these organizational tools that I'll be talking about. So those are good places, I'd say, to visit. But don't forget, I'll try to remember to add those links to the guide here so we can refer back, or you can refer back to those after the session. So our agenda: getting organized, saving and backing up files, understanding database storage accounts, which is going to be kind of the centerpiece of this. Very briefly talk about citation managers and any questions that you have. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but there are lots of benefits of being organized, and this is beyond academic research, but just in general, it helps you save time, which that's what makes everything easier when you're a little bit better organized. From a research standpoint, specifically from the library, how much time you put into a really detailed search and then you lose it somehow, or some way a particular article you like that you're not seeing anymore in your results list, or something like that happened to you, can be extraordinarily frustrating. But being organized saves you time and frustration, and your research projects are already stressful enough. So being organized, whether it's through using one of these database storage accounts to store information and create searches or retrieve search history, having that stuff kind of figured out before you really dive into a big project can probably save you a lot of frustration. It's also good to have a plan or a strategy on how to go about a researching topic. I know the one that is most used in health sciences, at least here at the University of St. Augustine, is we use the PICO method, which is to really help you. It has really two great uses. One is to help frame a clinical question into something simpler, Whereas with it also works as a means to extract keywords and come up with synonyms and different ways to track searches, save searches where you've been before, so you're not going in that circle of searching, which I know some of us get into. Also, finally, just the awareness of the resources that are available to you, whether it's library resources or just the librarian. Being organized is just knowing your surroundings. And speaking of resources, let's take it some of the, I guess, some of the popular storage tools that I think people come to first, maybe, or that you know a little bit about. First, sounds cheesy, but the old computer file folder, what can you say about it? You use one every day, probably to save files on your computer, whether you're doing it through OneDrive or saving items to your desktop. And the reason why I'm pointing out the obvious, for at least for something to have to store files and things like that, is because it's something that I've always thought that if you're organized by just, if you have your own way of keeping the information that you're tracking and pulling from different databases or images or whatever, and if you're feel more comfortable about using something that one might think as, as an antiquated way to be organized, if it works for you, do it. I'm a huge proponent that there's never really a right way to do it. There's suggestions, and somewhere in there is the right way for you. So, whether it's images from your class or video content or articles, some of you may continue to use the file folder to save files on your computer or on an external hard drive, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to be organized. The process varies from person to person. If you're interested in some of the other tools for saving and backing up files, look no further than some of the best cloud storage tools that are out there. I'm sure you've heard of them. There's Dropbox, there's Google Drive, OneDrive. Dropbox is pretty simple, reliable file syncing storage service. It's one of the biggest names in online storage. You can create a free account for Dropbox, get about 2 gigabytes of free space. Plus, it's just the best way to use it is to install it on your machine or on your device, which allows you to automatically back up files. You can download the mobile app and access files from your machine or personal device. You can share files also with approved parties. OneDrive is another file hosting product that allows you to synchronize and back up files. As a USA student or a faculty member, you have the ability to access OneDrive via Office 365. Google Drive, which is one of my personal favorites, that one is that's also available for free. There are a number of others. There's iCloud, for instance. I know that iCloud is one that I've heard a lot about myself, but I like Google Drive a lot. But that's just a personal preference. But all of those are great choices. So let's move on to understanding library database storage accounts. So the first one that you've probably come in contact with, and you may have created an account for at some point, but maybe we're not at the time completely aware of what the account or like what it actually does. But SearchUSA has something that's called the MyEBSCO host account. So of course, SearchUSA isn't a database, but it is the tool that you use to search our resources, our databases, our physical collections, and so on. So EBSCO allows you to create a database storage account. These are free and will allow you to store research while you're researching, and we'll look at a little bit closer in just a few minutes, but it's a really important tool that I think that regardless of where you are in your program and your progression, I think it's an important account to have. And I'll talk a little bit about that more in a few minutes, but for one thing, it's a free account. It can help you save articles, help you modify searches, modify the results lists, your searches, and create search alerts, and all that stuff we'll talk about. I think that's the one I'll probably spend the most time on because it's the one that I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like everybody should probably create one of those at some point, either now or later. The next one is through Pubmed, which is just like my EBSCO host. You can save searches, modify searches, create search alerts, and and activate automated searching as well using the My NCBI account Pubmed. Some interesting features include filter displaying, creating custom searches or creating custom filters for searching. Also, you can share bibliographies with other scholars. Basically, it creates, when you do that, it basically will create a unique URL that you can share with just about anyone. It's really great and super easy to use. And if, like I said, if we have enough time at the tail end, maybe we'll scoot over there and take a look at it. But a lot of these accounts do a lot of the same things. So I think once you kind of get the idea of maybe my EBSCO host, I think it'll be up to you if you want to create other ones. The ones I'm just showing are some of the most notable ones. Next is ProQuest's My Research account. Does, of course, a lot of the same things as the other ones. You can save and manage scholarly research, create automated searches, create alerts, save and modify searches, and RSS feed as well. So let's go take a look at some of these real quick. You might have any questions while I pause to share my screen? Very good. And before I forget, I'm going to add those additional guides that I mentioned that I think might be helpful for this session. Just real quick, can you see my screen? It should be just the library's homepage. Awesome sauce. Looks great. So the first one I'm going to share with you is the Citation Managers guide, which if you want to refer to it afterwards, I think it would be helpful. Of course, this just details everything about Citation Managers and all the ones that we support. The other one is the Occupational Therapy Capstone Project, and it's really the one part I wanted to point you toward is really where it talks about the specific part where it goes into detail about some of the stuff we're about to talk about in just a minute. Here it is. And it's actually going to be the documenting searches part, but it talks a little bit about my EBSCO host, which is what we're just about to do. Ooh, I see Sam has a quick question. Can we do an advanced search from this homepage? Actually, yes, you can. From the library homepage, correct? Is that what you were referring to? Okay, yeah. So that's a great question, actually, and I'll answer it this way. For normal searches, just item searches, or just doing a quick keyword search for Search USA, that top search bar right here is usually your go-to if you're just looking for something pretty quickly. But if you feel like you're going to maybe spend a little bit more time in Search USA, and also this is the way to best activate the My EBSCO host, is you would go to Resources and click on Search USA. This will take you to the Search USA. We like to call it the older portal screen, but it's basically where you can click on Advanced Search right here to go to that, which is actually where we may go to that in just a minute. But what it does give you as well is it gives you all of these other different tools at the top. So you have the new search, you have, if you want to link off and go to Journal Finder and look for journals instead of just articles and journals, you can do that. The My EBSCO host sign-in is up here at the top and it says optional, and there's a folder, preferences for different things. All of that's here. And that's if you link to Search USA, go into Resources and Search USA. Personally, it's the way that I usually like to go to Search USA, because when I'm going to Search USA, a lot of the times it's for more advanced searching, and so I'll usually go there because that's just easier for me to go to. But you'll also see here is I'll bring up not only the link to go to advanced search, but it also has the search history one here as well. We'll talk about the search history button right here in just a few minutes, but let's go ahead and do My EBSCO host. So if you haven't already signed up for a My EBSCO host account, you would do that by going up to the top here and clicking on My EBSCO host. Now, My EBSCO host sign in optional. It takes a few minutes to create an account. I already have mine created, so I'm going to go ahead and sign into it to kind of show you what it looks like. Once you're logged into your My EBSCO host account, that My EBSCO host optional link at the very top will disappear, and all you'll see is sign out, folder, and preferences. Your folder is exactly what it sounds like. It's content. If you're searching in Search USA that you've collected and added to a folder, you've probably seen the folder icon before, and we're kind of maybe like unsure of where this, you could save stuff, but maybe, where was it saving to? Let's do a quick search really quick. So I'm going to do one here for virtual reality. And when we get search, okay, so with virtual reality as our quick search, just to kind of get things started, once we've already logged in an account, you'll see where it says sign out, folder, preferences. Of course, preferences, that always shows up. That's going to be asking you how you want the page to display, the results to display, and etc. But the folder is, you probably never noticed it, maybe. The folder icon, they have these little folder icons next to all of the results listed in Search USA, you can see. And when you click on that folder, it adds, when you click on the folder icon, depending on how, if you have your account set up completely yet, it will ask you where you'd like to put that, to put this particular article. Most of the time it's just my folder, but I've created a couple of different ones because I've done this a few times. So if I wanted to add that to, I can just assign the folder that I want that article to go to, and it'll turn this yellow manila folder color. And if I want to access that article or come back to it later, I can hit the folder button and then go up to my folder in the MyEBSCO host account that I have, and I can look for that article. It'll probably be down at the bottom, because you can see there's lots of articles that I've put in here over time. But yeah, so that's usually how that would be done. I know lots of folks have used that folder icon and added items to the folder without knowing that you have to create an account in order to keep that content. And that's definitely one thing I want to remind everybody of, is that if you have used that before, or if you haven't used it before, now want to try it, you have to create an account in order for the articles in the folder to save. So if what I like about the account, and I'm sort of going off script here, I guess, but what I like about the MyEBSCO host account is that when I'm looking for content in Search USA, I almost use the my folder account or any number of folders that I might create for articles. I like to use it as almost like a triage, basically. So let's say I'm doing a literature search, and I'm going through a lot of the results, I'm seeing cool things, so I'm hitting the button here and there for the, for one of the results or one of the articles to go into my folder. And I'm really just doing it not because I'm stopping at each individual article and reading the abstract, but maybe it just looks interesting based on parts of the abstract, parts of the title, or just a quick summary of it. I'll add it to my folder, and I'll kind of use that as a way for me to, once I've found a couple of these articles, I'll look at it and be like, okay, let me see if these are pertinent to what I'm looking for, and if they are, then I will move those into my citation manager of choice. And so I've always kind of used this as a way to save content, to come back to it, and then sort of judge the content from the folder and just be like, okay, well, I guess I don't need this anymore, because I'm sort of saving the citation manager as sort of like the final organizational tool. But it's entirely up to you, but that's just a personal tip that I've always used this account for, as sort of like a literature searching triage unit, basically. So some of the other things that I like to show you about this, about some of the things that you can do with the folder, it does separate the different types of sources that you bring into your folder. So a lot of these that are in mine are articles. I have a couple of ebooks, things like that are also in there. I also have a number of saved searches and search alerts. We'll talk about that in just a second. You can create your own custom folders just by creating by hitting the new button right there, which will help you create the folder, and you can name the folder whatever you like. And so that's one of a really good feature about that. Let's go to the back button to go back here. Also, real quick, before I forget, let me go back to the folder. There's also a toolbar that's over here on the right side that has that has the printer icon, email icon, save and export. It does exactly what it says over there. You can select the articles that you may want to share with one of your classmates, or that maybe you want to save that content maybe into one of the file folders that are on your computer. Or if you, can be very helpful, is that for the ones that you do like, and you may want to export them over into a citation manager of your choice, you can do that there. Most of the time, depending on which one you're using, if you're using Zotero, you can do it pretty simply by just clicking on the little browser icon at the top. But if you're using EndNote or even Mendeley and you want to make sure all the information goes over there correctly and the article, sometimes you'll have to do export, and you can do that with Zotero as well, just to make sure that all the bibliographic information goes over. So that's that. Of course, like I said, you can email and share that way as well. Let's see, I think you have a question. Does the citation folder info show after you save it to the folder? Oh, you're talking about it basically will look just like it does in Search USA. So it'll pop up like this, and you can access it just like if you had searched for it in Search USA. So all the bibliographic data and anything that you would need to use for the citation can help you with this. I will warn you about the citation tools real quickly that are in maybe Search USA and some of the other databases. They're often not 100% correct. They're usually pretty good, but you're almost better going to the Writing Center or using your APA or AMA manual. But most of the time, basically what it would do if you were transferring it into a citation manager, it's just going to, when you hit the export button, it would just make sure that all the information that's here in the item record will populate in the citation manager of your choice. I hope that answers your question. So yes, so let's go back out to our search. Now we can do lots of different things with the MyEBSCOhost account. One of the bits that I think a lot of people forget, and I've definitely forgotten about it for a little while, was how, because you kind of get into this mode when you're doing a literature search, you forget, because you're constantly moving keywords here and there and going back and forth. Sometimes you forget that the search history button is here right below the search bar. And what the search history button does, of course, is that it shows you what you've been doing, like how you've been going about your literature searching process, along with the key terms that you've used, search options, which would be expanders, limiters, and filters that you attach to your search, your results, and different details, specifically the details of of whatever database that you're looking at, or databases if you're Search USA. Or and there's also a spot where you can revise your search as well. Other thing that it allows you to do through search history is you can save your search. So your work, again, most of what I'm talking about tonight is usually, it can be adapted to any sort of type of literature searching, whether it's for a small project or a large project. But I like to think that large projects and saved searches are very, definitely should go together. Because sometimes if you're doing a literature search for your dissertation or a capstone project or something like that, that there will be times when you're doing that literature search that you'll find a good vein, basically, through a couple of keyword combinations that you find, and all of a sudden you're going, okay, this is the search that I've been looking for. I'm going to save some articles that I find that look really interesting to my MyEBSCOhost folder and maybe come back. But you can do one better by saving that search and that search combination so you can come back to it later. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So virtual reality, this particular one was a search that we thought was fruitful, that we want to come back to, or that we've added limiters and filters and things like that to, and we're finding the best article, we're finding the best content around. Then what we do is we go to select, which basically just check marks the search that we've done. It'll say S1 for search one. And you'll go to save searches right here. So you'll see print search history, retrieve searches, retrieve alerts, save searches. And when you click on that, it'll ask you to give a quick title of your search, the one that you did. If you want to provide a description, you can do that as well. And really the next thing you do is you have the choice of either saving that search permanently so that every time you log into your my EBSCOhost account, this specific search is going to be there, or you can just save it for a temporary time period. Which, before I get to that last part there of saving, you'll see that it does kind of give you a little bit more detail as into what it's actually searching. So how you applied limiters and expanders, and how successful the search was in the last time that you did it. So that's pretty neat. The other thing that it lets you do as well is it also lets you create an alert. But before I do that, I'm going to save the search. So basically all you do is you select, if you want to do select save for 24 hours, I'll do that for this one. And I'll hit save. And it'll say this search that I've just done for 24 hours. It also, again, if you're ever interested, it shows you the stuff that Search USA searches right here. So that's pretty neat. Now you could do another thing with this search, which is pretty neat as well. Let me go back out to the results page. And so we have our save search. We can also go to save searches and alerts here. It's kind of like a multi-purpose link back. And you can also create something different based off of this particular search that we want to keep. You can create an alert. So what the alert means, what that means is that you've done a search in Search USA or in Send All Complete, maybe for example, which is also an EBSCO product. And let's say that the search term that you use, or the subject term that you use, like for virtual reality, for instance, let's say that you're working on one of these large scale research projects, particularly if you're working on a dissertation, and you're looking for as much as you can about the topic, maybe of virtual reality. You can create these search alerts where basically you can set it as in the frequency field right here. You can set the search alert to basically do an automated search for you each week or bi-weekly or once a month. And only thing it'll do is it'll search for, you'll see it right here where it says search strategy. That would be the term that it searches, and it's going to look for that term as a keyword. So it's going to look for it collectively as virtual reality. It may look for it separately as virtual reality. And so that's another thing that you can do with this that's really helpful, is you can set up these automated searches. I say it's better to do it for if you're looking for like a big topic, if you're looking for a topic or let's say that if you're, again, in your dissertation, you're trying to get as much information as you can about a topic. I think this is where it comes into play, because I don't think that it's not the way that you should specifically do a literature search, but it helps you with the literature search. And you should still be doing the literature search and sort of use the search alerts as kind of just a backup. So while you're doing other literature searches, the search alert, the automated searching can still go on. And what happens is that you can set the frequency, so maybe once a day. You can do a limit by articles published within the last year. You can set it from no limit, which would give just about everything, 1 year, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. Also, it'll tell you how long you want to run the alert. You can also tell you what you want to see in the alert when it comes to your email, because that's where it usually goes. You can set it up to where each week, if that's what you choose, it'll do a search for, say, virtual reality. And that specific search will come to your email inbox. So where all you have to do is click on the email that it comes in, which it'll usually just say like EBSCOhost. Click on the email, log into your account, and it'll give you the results of that specific search. So like I said, you can have it delivered to you in a couple of different ways, and that's entirely up to you. But normally what people do is they usually just have it as an email item. I don't know if you can see on my screen. I was going to actually show an example of it because I have one that's sort of set up to show people all the time. And if you give me a moment, I'll find it. Probably should have done that before we started tonight. This is what it looks like. Here, let me show you. So I did just a basic search a while back ago for just a search on simulation and blended learning. And I have it set up so that every week it does a search for any brand new articles that have come out within the week of about maybe simulation and nursing education. It'll update it constantly. So I mean, Search USA and the databases, they're constantly indexing new content. So that's really what happens, is that you can set it for weeks or months, and then it'll just send you that search for whatever you choose, once a month or a few times a month. And all you have to do is just click on the link, and it'll take you right to that search or right to that specific article. But you can do all different types of searches. You don't really have to just settle with something basic and just virtual reality. I mean, you could incorporate the Boolean operators or do more advanced searching. But I typically think if you're doing something on virtual reality and rehabilitation, and you just want to have everything that's been written about virtual reality and rehabilitation, you could probably enter that into that search string, set it up, and it would just send you as much content as you wanted to. Again, and I'll stress this again, this doesn't this isn't to be in the place of actually sitting down and doing the searches. It's just something to help you out as you're also doing literature searching. So it can be a very useful tool, and I highly suggest you create a MyEBSCO host account. Like I said, this is one of the coolest features of it, is just having this content together that you can refer to and use as you're doing a large-scale research project, or just you're curious about a specific topic, and you just want your account to give you as much information about it. So that's MyEBSCO host account. Again, you can go to the different databases that we have and create accounts. Each of them are pretty independent of one another. All of the databases that we subscribe to have some type of user account that's like this. It's almost always free, and they're very quick setup, just like the MyEBSCO host account. And as you saw in the slides previously, they all kind of do about the same thing. Some of them do it better than others. MyEBSCO host account is an EBSCO product, so it's also, since CinAll Complete is an EBSCO product, you have the ability to sign in and use those accounts. Also, of course, ProQuest has its My Research account, which you can link out to by just clicking on ProQuest here under additional resources. And Pubmed, they have their own as well, which is the My NCBI. And again, they all work kind of the same. I suggest, if you're interested in them, check them out. I think the MyEBSCO host one is kind of the first one that you should look at. And Sam, that's a great question. Can you save content like Pubmed articles to EBSCO host? Well, so Search USA already searches Medline, Medline, which is the backbone of Pubmed. So you're already technically searching Pubmed when you're using Search USA. The difference is that the reason why we have the additional resources like that, where you can link out to Pubmed, is really because of the features that come with Pubmed that are beyond the capability of Search USA. So if theoretically you are saving stuff from Pubmed using Search USA, but I do suggest, if you're going to use Pubmed a lot more than maybe just using Search USA, then you're better off just going to Pubmed and setting up the account there, just because I think it's easier. Plus, you're not having to go back and forth between both interfaces back and forth. So I think if you're definitely going to find content in both places. So I would say stuff that you find in Pubmed, you may just want to create the My NCBI account, or use your citation manager to do that. But yeah, so it seems, you're saying most of the articles seem to be in Pubmed. If that's the case, I would still create the MyEBSCO host account just for Search USA, because if you're looking for stuff in Pubmed, or you're finding a lot of stuff in Pubmed, then other databases that are health-based, because Pubmed is the ultimate health sciences free database that's out there, you're still going to be, their material overlaps a lot. So I don't see a problem with having two of them separately going at the same time. And again, this is also where the citation manager kind of comes in as well, because some people, they don't use these accounts nearly as much maybe as they should, and they may use a citation manager to just be able to have that ability to toggle from from resource to resource to resource. So that's also another thing. If you think it's easier for you to have Zotero up in the background with the Zotero with the browser extension, just going through the results list in PubMed and then going back to Search USA, then you can do that as well. Again, as I'll say, I like to provide you with strategies. It's sort of up to you guys to figure out the best path that you want to take. But I have accounts for both of them. I use if I'm searching in PubMed and if I'm sort of triaging before I put stuff into my citation manager, I have my account that I do log into that actually I'm always logged into for that. And partly because there's a lot more interesting search features that you're capable of using in PubMed as opposed to Search USA. They're essentially two different tools. They just have a similar, they are two different tools. It's just that their user accounts have a bit of a similarity. But if you feel like PubMed is where you're getting most of your content from, maybe you should just create the MyNCBI account. But again, I'll press it to you a little bit more that the MyEBSCO host account can also be really helpful too. So with that, we're right at 40 minutes, right where I wanted to end up. For any additional questions, Sam, you've asked really good questions tonight, and I really appreciate it. This presentation is recorded, of course, and especially I move around a little fast. So if you needed to go back and take a look at some stuff, you'll be able to do that soon. But yeah, let me go back to my PowerPoint presentation really quick to kind of wrap everything up. So last bit is about citation managers. Sam, I don't know if you're currently using one, but it also is one that some people use as in place, maybe, of using some of these user accounts, is they'd rather just save it directly to the citation manager without having to go through kind of like a middleman type of thing. But the citation managers that we support are Zotero, EndNote, X8, and Mendeley. Zotero is the one that I think most people particularly like. It's very simple. The interface is very simple. These are just images of kind of what the libraries of each of these look like. So the first one here is EndNote. Now, we now have a database that's called Web of Science that has a MyEBSCO host, that has a EndNote, has an online version of EndNote that you can also activate and use. But it's only, you can use it and then download a browser extension that helps you add stuff to it outside of Web of Science. But that's another option I kind of throw in there. It's very new, and a lot of people, I don't think a ton of people are using it yet, but it's an option. It's through Web of Science. If you go to the Web of Science database from our databases pages, you'll see it there. EndNote X8 is a citation manager that's used mostly by our post-professional students. It's used quite a bit. This is what the library part of that looks like. The next one I'll show you, this is Mendeley, which Mendeley recently kind of upgraded its citation manager. It's now called Mendeley Reference Manager. Like I said, these are different images of the citation managers that are out there, and this one's Zotero, the last one. The citation managers make it possible really for you to electronically store information in sort of a systematic and organized way. So it's basically like your MyEBSCO host account or your MyNCBI account, but housed on your computer. So basically when you're saving content, it's saving it to an application that you have downloaded to your machine. So each citation manager is different, just like these storage accounts that we were talking about for databases, but they do a lot of the same features. You can create folders by topic or author. You can easily export articles and other sources into your library. You can use the duplicates feature to identify duplicate works when constructing a literature review. You can also install different add-ons to your word processor to enable you to generate citations as you write, as you write for your reference lists and bibliographies. So it's another option right there. People always ask me what's the best one. There really aren't there's not really a solid answer for that, because I'll say Zotero because that's the one I like, but all of them do about the same thing. And trust me, I'm the guy that teaches people how to use the different ones. So they all have their features. My reasoning behind liking Zotero is because it's just good at doing the one job, keeping your information organized. As far as citation generating, it's just like any of them. It just takes the information that it has and makes the citation out of APA 7th edition style. So, I mean, there's going to be times where it doesn't really look like it's right, but that's what your manual's for. That's what the writing center is for. It just takes the information that you have and creates something with it. But all of these tools do very well is keeping your information organized so you can retrieve it at your whim. So questions, I saw that Sam might have dropped something in the chat here. Let's see. Cool. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that last bit you have. It says, I need to know, but don't know how yet. Okay. Was that about the articles coming from Pubmed, or is that just from Citation Managers? Oh, for Citation Managers, it's saved. It depends on the tool. Now, with the Citation Managers, it'll save the files to your computer, but it also has a backup. That's an online account, so it sort of saves it into cloud that you can access. So yeah, that content is backed up and saved. That's another reason why during the Zotero presentation that I do, that I always stress the backup account, because just in case something happens, God forbid something happens, you have the online account to back up your information. But all of them are saved to your computer, but they're also accessible through an online account that usually, if all of them, to my recollection, maybe except for EndNote, have an online account that's all you have to do is sort of set up really quickly, and all the information that you're adding to the desktop application is automatically syncing to that online account. So you do have access to that. Hope that answers your question. So that's it. Questions, stories, confusion. Let's try to address that as much as possible. Definitely would love to hear any feedback you have. We have a post-session survey that we'd like to give out to folks, just to sort of let us know how these sessions are going. I'm putting the link right there, so once we've completed for tonight and anything like that, you can take that survey for us. Much appreciated your feedback. Good question, Sam. Can you save directly to USB instead of using hard space on your computer? That's a good question. I don't really think, like I said, I think the cloud aspect of it sort of backs up. So you're not having necessarily to take up as much space in your account. I'm pretty sure that you probably could do that, though. You could probably offload it or export it from your library. The files that you have, you could probably export them from your library. You probably do an export to save the file on your computer and then offload it onto the USB drive if you want, or you can offload it to one of those personal storage devices I was taught, or those backing up file tools that I was telling you about earlier, for Dropbox or Google Drive or something like that. So I mean, I'm sure it's definitely possible. I've never done it personally, but I'm sure that it sounds like it's very doable. And if you have any questions about it, if you decide to do that, you can always email me and we'll try to figure it out together. All right. Well, I hope you had a good time tonight. Like, this is where the party's at. So anyway, if you could take that survey for me, that would be helpful. Like I said, we always like having feedback about our sessions and if you're enjoying them. But yeah, please join me for Zotero, which is going to be next week. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use that tool. I encourage you, if you're listening to this later, and you're thinking about going to that session, or if you're listening to this now, thinking about going to that session, before you go, I'd kind of do a little bit of research on your own about Zotero or any of the other citation managers. I wouldn't suggest go out and download every single one of them that's out there and then try to figure out which one's the best. My advice is always to sort of pick the one that that you're going to stick with, sort of, and kind of go from there. All of them, like I said, have great features, but most of them do pretty much the same job. So, but anyway, thank you again for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Once again, my name is Ryan Gaylor. It's my contact information. If you have particular questions about what we talked about tonight, you can email me directly at rgaylor@usa.edu. Or if it's just a general question about this and you don't need to talk to me anymore about it, you can email us at library@usa.edu and get any one of our librarians. So thanks again. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now. I hope you have a great night.